Mark 16, 9 through 14, going to get right in it. I'm going to be reading from the Passion Translation, so you probably, unless you have a U version on your app or on your phone, I'm going to be having it up here on the screen as well. But just to set the scenario before I get into this message real quick, you know, a couple weeks ago we celebrated Easter, and we talked about, you know, the resurrection. And this story is actually taken from Mark 16, and it's right after Jesus has been crucified. And so that's kind of where we are. It says in Mark 16, 9 through 14, it says, "Early on the first day of the week, after rising from the dead, Jesus appeared to Mary Magdalene, from whom he had cast out 7 demons. After she had seen Jesus, she ran to tell his disciples, who were all emotionally devastated and weeping. Excitingly, Mary told them, 'But he's alive! I've seen him!' But even after hearing this, they just were too devastated. They just didn't believe her. After this, Jesus appeared to 2 of the disciples who were on their way to another village, appearing in a form they did not recognize. They went back to Jerusalem to tell the rest of the disciples, but they wouldn't believe that it was true. Then Jesus, everybody say, then Jesus. Then Jesus appeared before the 11 apostles as they were eating a meal. He corrected them for having such hard, unbelieving hearts because they did not believe those who saw him after his resurrection." Now, as the Lord gave me the scripture and I was reading it, I began to put myself into this situation. Here is Jesus has just been crucified. Here's these disciples who spent well over 3 years with this man, who've seen him raise people from the dead. They heard the words that he spoke. They felt the compassion. They felt the love. They heard what he said, that, hey, you destroy this temple, I'm going to rebuild it in 3 days. I mean, he let them know what was going to happen, and yet, when it was happening, they ran. When it was happening, they betrayed him. When it was happening, they denied him. When it was happening, they were so distraught that it didn't happen the way they thought it was supposed to happen, that they found themselves weeping and devastated and in a place of fear that it might happen to them as well. So I put myself in this situation, and here they are. They're all together, maybe locked in a room, or they're kind of together, afraid of what's going to happen. I picture maybe Andrew. He's on his cell phone, you know, on social media, and he's putting feeling disappointed. You know, did we miss it? Hashtag, what do we do now? You know, I believe some of the other disciples are probably discussing about what Jesus did, and possibly that if he's still alive, but if he was, how would he even love them after they ran? Then I see Thomas going on and saying, "Come on, man, you guys are all crazy. Until I see the nails in his hands, and until I see the side where he was punctured, until I see it in his feet, man, you can't tell me that he's alive. I just can't believe it." And then I think he goes on and says, "You know what? Some of you guys think that you believe it. Some of you over there moaning and groaning. You know, maybe he wasn't what he said he was. I don't know." And then all of a sudden I just see these disciples just looking at Thomas with this stone face. And Thomas was like, "What? You can't tell me that you believe this Jesus. You don't believe..." And they just could stare at him. And I believe in this scenario, just in my mind, that he looks back at the disciples and he says what the title of my message is today. He's behind me, isn't he? And in that moment, Jesus appears with those disciples. So maybe you're here today and you're like the disciples. Maybe you've walked with Jesus. Maybe you've experienced his love. Maybe you've seen his miracles take place, possibly even in you. Maybe you were once at a place where you felt like an outcast, but Jesus welcomed you and you dropped everything and you followed him. You could even say that if it wasn't for him, you wouldn't be here today. But maybe something tragic happened and the emotion from it has stopped you in your tracks. Maybe you prayed and it didn't go the way you thought it was supposed to go. Maybe you're stuck. Maybe you're broken. Maybe you're confused, wondering, how do we move forward? Maybe you're feeling like Peter or John and you've ran from Jesus, or you've denied him and you don't feel worthy of his love. Or you missed it and somehow you question your own faith and doubt, and depression maybe sets in. Or maybe you're here and your life is full of anxiety, hopelessness, and you've never experienced the love and the forgiveness of Christ, but you were searching for something. And maybe Jesus has sent others to let you know it's going to be okay, that His love for you is alive, to share that what we thought was dead can be alive. But you can't believe it because maybe your anger, your bitterness, your fear, your broken heart, or your guilt or shame won't allow you to believe it, to see it. You feel you have no purpose or value. So how do you move forward? How do we move forward from a situation? Maybe you don't have any of those, but maybe one day you will. And the question is how do we move forward from that situation? You see, I believe that Jesus will do what He did for the disciples, for you. He does something we don't see coming or feel worthy of. He reminds them, and He will remind us to look back at the cross. To look back at all the times that He's been faithful. Then His love, His forgiveness, His mercy, His grace, His compassion appear, and He shows us, and He reminds us, despite our unbelief and mistakes, that He's behind us, isn't He? You see, my grandpa was a pastor. My dad was a pastor. I grew up in the church. I knew everything. I mean, you talk about growing up behind the doors, behind the scenes. That was my life. Grandfather and then my dad. And so all my life. But when I was 11 years old, I knew that me, wanted to follow Jesus the rest of my life. I fell in love with Jesus. I'd heard the messages, and I was at a camp, and a speaker spoke when I was 11. If your 11-year-old says they want to follow Jesus, they're not too young. Let them follow Jesus. I was 11 years old, and so suddenly, there was something that rose at me, and I just raised my hand, and I said, I want Jesus. I want everything He has. But you see, you got to understand is since I was 3 years old, my grandfather pulled me out of a service, and he prophesied over me, and he said, you know what? You're going to use your creative arts and your music to reach a different generation. And I remember that from this day. And for the rest of my life, all the way up to 11 and all the way through my teen years, different ministers would come to church. And they pull me out they didn't even know me, and they just say, the Lord wants me to remind you something. He's going to use you. He's going to use your creative gifts and your music to reach a different generation. So when I was 11, I said, okay. And I was sold out. And then it wasn't long after that, my grandfather died, after I prayed that he wouldn't. And then not too long after that, my parents got a divorce. And everything I knew, including my faith, came into question. I let emotion and doubt, which is really the voice of the enemy, begin to derail me and pull me from my purpose, my calling. At 16 years old, I was living on my own, falling apart. I got into drugs and began drinking to hide the pain, and I spiraled into depression and even suicidal thoughts. I lived that way and believed that God would never want me back. I could never become what He called me to be now. I had forgot my first love. I was weeping, and I was devastated because life didn't go the way I thought it should have been. But see, John 10:10, which is really my life verse, but John 10:10 says, the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy, and that was what was going on. That is what's going on in the disciples' life. That was what's going on in my life, and I believe that that's what's going on possibly in your life today. He wants to short-circuit your life. He wants you to doubt God, to question His ways, to forget who God is, so you forget who you are. He's been doing that since the garden. But then it says, the second half of John 10:10, but I, everybody say, but I, that's Jesus, have come that you would have life, and not just life, but life to the fullest, life abundantly. You see, years later, due to some crazy circumstances, I say crazy, it's God's circumstances. I'm sitting because I went to go to a church that my mom was at the time, and my sister was going, and some people had been praying, and then under that weird circumstance, I decided, okay, I'll go to this church, but I'm going to be set on fire when I go in because I felt like I was unworthy. So I'm sitting at church in Des Moines, and under a pastor you guys might know, Pastor Bill Jenkins. And I hear a message. No matter where you are today, God is not finished with you yet. God is a God of forgiveness, and because of what He did on the cross, you can go forward in what He made you to do, be, and experience. That day, Lindy and I gave everything to Jesus. I was reminded of the one I knew as a kid, my first love. And the rest is history. We see Jesus do the same thing with the disciples. He tells them, despite where you are today, your feelings of betrayal, your unworthiness, your depression, your hopelessness, that His love hasn't changed, and tells them that God isn't finished with them yet. He takes them back so they can move forward. He reveals his hands. He shows Thomas. He shows them all. He reveals his hands and his feet and his side. He doesn't tell them because of their unbelief, because of their betrayal, because of their brokenness that they're no good to him now. No, he tells you what I'm going to tell you today, and that's at times you may lose your passion, but God hasn't forgot your purpose. Now, I'm a youth pastor, but I think we're all kids and all youth at heart. So I illustrate differently sometimes. So I want to show you a video clip, especially with the kids in here, but we're all kids at heart, to illustrate what I'm saying. So go ahead and let's put that up.
Look down there.
That's not my father. It's just my reflection.
No. Look hard. You see, he lives in you.
Father?
Simba, you have forgotten me.
No. How could I?
You have forgotten who you are, and so forgotten me. Look inside yourself, Simba. You are more than what you have become. You must take your place in the circle of life.
How can I go back? I'm not who I used to be.
Remember who you are. You are my son, and the one true king. Remember who you are.
No! Please! Don't leave me!
Remember.
Father!
Remember.
Don't leave me.
Remember.
What was that? The weather. Very peculiar, don't you think?
Yeah. Looks like the winds are changing.
Change is good.
Yeah, but it's not easy. I know what I have to do, but going back means I'll have to face my past. I've been running from it for so long. Ow! Jeez, what was that for?
It doesn't matter. It's in the past.
Yeah, but it still hurts.
Oh, yes, the past can hurt. But the way I see it, you can either run from it or learn from it. Ah, you see? So what are you going to do?
First, I'm gonna take your stick.
No, not a stick. Hey, where are you going?
I'm going back!
Good. Go on, get out of
He took care of the past. The cross brought forgiveness and healing. You see in that scene, he forgot who he was. He forgot who he was, which made him think that he was worthless, made him think he was a nobody, and no one would accept him. But Christ took care of the past. The cross brought forgiveness and healing. When we remember who he is, what he's done, you can take your rightful place and be who he created you to be. You are more, I love what he said in there, you are more than where you are now. And so Jesus looks at the disciples and he said, all right, in Matthew 28, 18 through 20, and Jesus came and spoke to them, saying, all authority now has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Go therefore and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things that I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. Basically, he said, don't worry, I've got your back. I trust you to represent me. Keep going. He's behind us, isn't he? Jesus has our back. He's with us always. When we know that Jesus has our back, we can confidently move forward. I remember when I taught my kids how to ride a bicycle. And while they're riding on their own, they're falling over, scraping their knees. But the moment they knew that Dad was behind them, the confidence changed. They knew that Dad was there to catch them if they fall, that Dad would be there as they rode. Listen, when you realize that Jesus has your back, you will move forward with confidence. Sure, we've missed it. We've made mistakes. And sure, it didn't go the way we wanted, but no matter where you are today, God isn't finished with you yet. Because of what he did behind us, our best days are ahead of us. Because Jesus has got your back. He's for you, not against you. He's the same behind us yesterday, today, and forever and tomorrow. He tells us to put on the armor. We take the shield and we take the sword and we move forward. Why? Because he's got our back. Because of what Jesus did, listen to me, you need to hear this. Because of what Jesus did, we don't fight for victory. We fight from victory. He literally took the stripes on his back for our healing. He has our back. We can move forward. And it's all past tense. Think about this. It's past tense. He said, it is finished. He took the stripes on his back. He rose from the grave. He sat down at the right hand of the Father. He has prepared a place for us. Because of what he did behind us, we can walk into what he has for us. He's behind us, isn't he? And if we know he's behind us, and we know we can move forward, then we don't have to doubt it. We can shout it. In Mark 11:23, it says, "For assuredly I say to you, whoever says to this mountain, be removed and be cast into the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that those things he says will be done, he will have whatever he says." Whatever mountains are keeping you from moving forward today, I want to encourage you to begin to shout the promises that you have because of what Christ did for you. Begin to shout the praises. You use the authority you have in Jesus' name, and you tell that depression to leave. You tell that sickness to leave. You tell that fear it has to go. Because if Jesus has our back, we can move forward, and we can shout in faith and praises and promises. You may not see it, but you shout it anyway. And if we know that Jesus has our back, we don't have to doubt it. We can be about it. The disciples go from fear to faith, and they spread the gospel all over. Even under persecution, they're not worried about it because they know Jesus has their back. If God is for us, who can be against us? Don't let your senses and emotions be the factor that drives your decisions. The enemy's been defeated. What you need to walk in the blessings and to bless others with has already been done for you. And I hope you made that tweak earlier when Pastor said, because I'm telling you, this is what we all need. I had another message I was going to do, and I said, no, Lord, I want what you want to be said today on May 5th. And I believe the Lord is telling us that he's got our back. We don't have to cower. We don't have to be afraid. We don't have to go backwards. We can move forward because he is with us. He has got our back till the end of the age. So we don't have to doubt it. We can be about it. We will do greater things because he didn't leave us powerless. We have been given the same Spirit that raised him from the dead. So don't doubt it. Shout it. Be about it. He's got our back. For the seniors, go into your next season with confidence. Whatever you're doing, whether it's college or the workforce, seniors, go in with confidence. He's got your back. Don't be afraid of persecution. Don't be afraid of things that would stop you. Remember who you are in him. Students, go to school with confidence. For those of you that have jobs, go to your jobs with confidence, knowing that God goes with you, that he's got your back. Go into your families with confidence. What have you been praying for? What have you been wanting to see? Shout it out. Don't doubt it. Shout it. Be about it. Go all out it. I don't know. But you don't know that what the enemy may bring to destroy you is the very thing that God will use for his glory. Side note, not in my notes, right here. The same sword that Goliath meant to destroy David with, David took his head off with. Don't give up. Don't doubt it. Shout it. Be about it. Some of you have been through some heavy stuff, I understand, and might be asking, well, what about when we're just too weak to move? That's great, Pastor Drew. Shout it and be about it. But there are some situations, and maybe you're in that today, where it's just like, I get it, but I'm just too weak to move. I know Jesus has got my back, but what do I do? And I want to finish up with this. I got one last video. It's a short video that I want to share with you. What do we do when we're too weak to go forward?
Do you remember the Shire, Mr. Fertile? It'll be spring soon. The orchards will be in blossom, and the birds will be nesting in the hazel thicket. And they'll be sowing the summer barley in the lower fields, and eating the first of the strawberries with cream. Do you remember the taste of strawberries?
Oh, Sam, I can't recall the taste of food. Not the sound of water, the touch of grass. I'm naked in the dark. There's nothing, no veil between me and the wheel of fire. I can see him with my waking eyes.
Then let us be rid of it, once and for all. Come on, Mr. Fertile. I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you. Come on!
What do we do? In our weakness, He's strong. He tells us the good things and reminds us, as Sam was reminding Frodo, of all the good things. And then He literally puts us on His back, and He carries us until we're strong again, like a good shepherd. So remember the cross. Remember the miracles. Remember His words. Psalms 23:6 says, surely His goodness and mercy will what? Will follow me all the days of my life. You can move forward and experience the blessings He has for you because He's behind us, isn't He? Thank you for watching today's message. If you'd like to know more about today's message or the ministry here at Living Word Fellowship in Knoxville, Iowa, please call 641-828-7119 or visit us online at lwfknoxville.com. If you are in the Knoxville, Iowa area, please stop by and see us on Sundays at 10 a.m. or Wednesdays at 7 p.m. at 321 East Robinson, where there's always something for everyone.